The Businessin Wales podcast, sponsored by Sinclair Group, the business media for Wales. Hello and welcome back to the Businessin Wales podcast with me, Daniel Bevan. Now, getting eyes on your business is one of the hardest things, but also one of the most important things to do as a business owner. But eyes is one thing, attention is another. Now, luckily, the person we've got on the podcast today knows all about that. James Robinson, Managing Director of Hello Starling. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
No worries at all. Well, listen, we're probably going to talk about that and a lot more, I would imagine. But let's start with Hello Starling, shall we? How did this come about? What is the sort of main mantra?
Oh, good. That's a great question. So my background is in media sales. So I've previously worked for out-of-home media owners, commercial radio stations, and decided that I wanted to do something different and be able to recommend media that wasn't just for the person, that I was employed by. So you work for a radio station, you sell that radio station. And so being media neutral and agnostic was really important to me. So I founded an agency to do that. We are based here in Cardiff, but we operate right across the UK and we have clients in each of the UK nations, and we have a couple of international clients that we work with as well. So yeah, we're about 18 years in. So yeah, I feel quite old when I have to use my fingers to count how many years.
So you're telling me Hello Starling can drink now?
Yes. Yes.
But your sort of strapline is for attention seekers. I'm keen to know, were you much of an attention seeker growing up?
I wasn't actually, although some of my school friends might disagree with me, but no, I wasn't. But I think, people talk about the term attention seekers in a little bit of a kind of tongue-in-cheek way. In actual fact, marketers are attention seekers. What they really want is to get all eyes and ears on their brand. And therefore, they have to be attention seekers. So we talk about how the marketers we work with should be proud attention seekers, and that we make sure that their brand is the center of attention. So yeah, we like the term attention seekers, and we want to embrace it, and we want marketers to embrace it as well.
Absolutely. It doesn't have to be a negative. Absolutely. Yeah. So what was it about advertising that spoke to you in trying to be an attention seeker yourself?
I think I had seen, from my background in out-of-home advertising and in radio, I'd seen the power that advertising has. Advertising done well can make you think things, it can make you feel things, it can make you do things, it can change your behavior. And I think there aren't many things that have the power and ability to do that. So I think that's what I was drawn to. It's extremely diverse. I'm lucky in that no 2 days are the same. One day I could be working with a charity that is looking to raise donations. The other day I could be working with a public sector body who were trying to recruit doctors and nurses into Wales. Or I could be working on driving sales of a product that's stocked in supermarkets. So it's really different. But I think it's really powerful. And I just think it's a great industry to be in. When I worked in radio, I think I often talk about how I was at the very end of the good days, the heydays of commercial radio, where lots of stuff happened that wouldn't happen in today's modern workplace. And I think, that got me excited about the industry. I think it's great, and you can drive around and you can be listening to radio, watching TV, see a billboard, and you've played a part in getting that ad campaign to where it is.
And I think, because I also have a radio background, and I think one of the things that proved the power of radio was the pandemic, and that so many people turned to the radio to, have a bit of company in their isolation. Yeah. But having said that, it meant that advertising during the pandemic on the radio was a huge change.
Absolutely. And I think radio has two key strengths for me anyway. And it's when I talk to clients about radio, I talk about the role of radio from an information perspective, You think traffic and travel, you think news updates, special alerts, opportunities to win something and be involved. You're part of a club, even though it can be quite a big club or a small club, depending on the size of the station, but you're in it together with a bunch of other people that you don't know. So it can feel very one-on-one. And that brings me to the second point, that radio is a friend. Radio is a companion. And we talk to our clients about how radio is a talk with medium. You would listen to an on-air presenter. You would talk along with them. You would agree with them. And that's different to television. Television is a talk at medium. You can sit in a room and you can all be talking at the television. But radio is very different. So there's a tone of voice, there's personality that you don't get from TV.
Oh, no, I completely agree. And I tell you what, my time in radio always taught me was that even if you're on the other side of the mic and you're speaking to people, it can often feel like you're not at times, and therefore in sort of quite a private setting. So certainly when you're reading a news bulletin and you're in a booth, but people are always listening, and you'll always get brought up about it. And it was always, particularly during the pandemic, quite an important tool for public service broadcasting as well, wasn't it?
Well, I think going back to your point about advertising and why advertising appeals to me, there's an element of trust there with radio. So it's been around for a very long time. It's trusted by that. A lot of it is regulated. It's regulated by Ofcom, and lots of ads in regulated categories are approved and substantiated before they go to air. So there's an element of quality that comes with that. And I think radio people see it as it's trustworthy. They can fall back on it. It's something that they can be done, that they can listen to in the background while they're doing other things. So there's exercise, cooking, and it's a companion. So it doesn't surprise me that people were turning to radio more so in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Sinclair Group has been part of the motor industry for over 80 years, and we've never stood still. Because for us, it's not just about where we've been, it's about where we're going. We believe in progress, embracing innovation, investing in technology, and moving towards a more sustainable future for everyone. We offer new and approved used vehicle sales and service for some of the world's most forward-thinking motor brands. But our drive is always to the future. So whether you're starting your journey or continuing your legacy, visit sinclairgroup.co.uk. Belong for good.
And in a time when attention spans perhaps have probably never been as short, TikTok and Instagram Reels, they are just this cycle of videos, etc. And I wonder what your ideas are when it comes to getting people's attention, because arguably never in history have people's attention spans been shorter. We get these short form content fed to us all the time. Just how difficult is it to stand out nowadays?
It is extremely difficult. When you think about it, if you go back 30, 40 years, we had 5 television channels. It was a big deal when Channel 5 was launched. So prior to that, it was, BBC 1, 2, ITV, and then Channel 4 or S4, and S4C would kick in when Channel 4's transmission was ending. Then we had Channel 5. And then you had radio stations and magazines and newspapers. But the explosion, the proliferation of media now means that you have to work really hard to get attention. People's attention spans are a lot shorter. And I think what people need to remember is, and I talk to clients a lot about this, you think your product, your promotion, your opinion is important, but people consuming that generally don't find it important. Advertising funds a lot of platforms, and that's why it's free for you to use. But media proliferation does mean that when we're building media plans for our clients, it's a lot harder because there are so many places that you can be.
So is there a size fits all? There probably isn't, just saying it, but approach? Is the sort of shotgun of getting a little bit of everything out there better than hyper focusing on one or two platforms?
It depends on the brief. It depends on who you want to reach, what you want them to do, what's in it for them, why should they do it? And that means that every media plan that we build for our clients is bespoke because no two briefs are the same. So it feels like I'm dodging the question.
No, not at all.
But but it genuinely is a case of it depends on what somebody wants to achieve from that campaign.
So if we were to say focus on the social media side of things, because there's a lot of non-brand safe content that goes on, particularly on X at the moment, but Instagram as well. Is that coming into businesses thinking at the moment, not wanting to target those platforms because it may be shared with something that isn't brand safe?
Well, I think there is an expectation on us as an agency from our clients that we do some of that legwork for them, and we make sure that we're vetting the environments that we're recommending our clients sit within. We haven't placed any ads on X, formerly Twitter, for clients for a long time. I mean, people have their own opinions on X, and it can be a useful tool, but for a lot of our clients, it isn't the right environment for them to be. But it's the same on YouTube. You know, people put content on YouTube, and you can often be seen sat next to some content that maybe doesn't sit right for your brand. And some brands will let that slide, and they just go, well, I see all views and impressions, and a pair of eyeballs is created equally. Some brands don't care about it. Others say, I don't want my spend funding those kind of organizations. So it is a tricky path to navigate, and we've got to be really mindful of it. And that means that we need to interrogate media owners more, ask them what they're doing, what guardrails they have in place to protect brands, what block lists and blacklists can we use to make sure that clients aren't placed next to certain content. So it's a path that we navigate, but it's something we do every day. So it's almost become sort of it's just part and parcel of what you have to do. I mean, we're lucky in things like with mediums like television. Every advert that you see on television is cleared by a body called Clearcast. It doesn't matter who you are, what you're saying, every advert is cleared. So that builds into it as a medium, as it's trustworthy. If you're going on radio and you're in a category such as gambling, alcohol, vaping is a very common one now. There are lots, financial services, legal services. There is a body called Radio Centre who approve those ads, and they check for substantiation and validation. So this is what makes these platforms trustworthy, because there are checks and balances in place. Social media is just a completely different ball game.
Yeah, that is interesting, and with the online safety bill as well. I mean, obviously the key focus on that is protecting children. Now, there's debates about whether it's effective in that, but do you think that it's effective in helping brands feel that their content is going to be placed in a place that is, how do I say, brand safe?
I don't think it does. Even as an adult, I see things online that I haven't sought out. I haven't gone looking for things, and yet somehow it finds its way into a feed. Now, I haven't asked for that. There's an algorithm behind that. I don't know why they're doing that and what their motive is behind it. On the Online Safety Act, I don't think it goes far enough. I think if you spoke to somebody in government, they would say it's a good first step, and that, you know, we've got to start somewhere and go further. But, you know, I am up for tightening regulation. I would absolutely, you know, be up for people having to verify social media to have a profile on there. I think that would make it become more trusted. It would also hold people accountable so that they couldn't hide behind fake profiles and churn out lots of dodgy content, you know, and bully people and harass people. There are so many reasons why it's good. And if my view is, if you're bothered about that, then don't use those platforms. I think it's right that young people, you know, like they're doing in Australia with the social media ban for young people. I think that's good. I think it's healthy. I know it's easy for somebody that's in their mid-40s to say, oh, well, in my day. But at the same time, we didn't have access to the internet. And I know that it brings with it lots of interesting content and helps people develop and learn and connect with people in different ways. But I think the harm that it can do is outweighs all of that.
Sinclair Group has been part of the motor industry for over 80 years. And in that time, we've learned it's not just about cars, it's about the impact we leave behind. We believe in driving change, supporting the people around us where we live and work. Because when our communities thrive, we all do. We offer new and approved used vehicle sales and service for some of the world's biggest motor brands. But what drives us goes far beyond the road. So whether you're starting your journey or continuing your legacy, visit sinclairgroup.co.uk. Belong for good.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because, as you say, it can be a great tool, social media. But I think we've all had an experience where we've just logged on to X, for example, and seen something that nobody wants to see. And you also have this vicious cycle of, because the platforms are built to retain your attention, it doesn't distinguish necessarily whether, if you're interacting with something, whether you like it or you dislike it.
Yeah.
So, if you end up watching a video which you end up, saying, showing someone, oh, look at this nonsense, that counts it as a positive interaction.
Yeah.
So therefore you'll see more of it. So it can spiral it, can't it?
Absolutely. And I think an example I had a couple of weeks ago, I was with one of our clients who, they're a national coffee chain, and we were talking about iced matcha. And I went onto TikTok and searched for iced matcha, just to show the client what kind of content is being created to promote the product. And it opened up a broader conversation. And for days afterwards, my feed was full, absolutely full of matcha content. Now, I don't drink tea or coffee. And so it's serving something to me now that I'm not interested in, but it was based on a search for something, and it's worked out quite quickly. I find actually TikTok's algorithm is very good at that. It's very quick at doing it, and I don't think some of the other social networks are quite there yet. I can easily lose 30 minutes on TikTok. You start and you're like, I'm half an hour in, and I've got nothing to show for it. And it's just sort of killed my brain and I'm fried. So, yeah.
I think you've inadvertently done something which I think a lot of people call a timeline cleanser, where you think, right, I'm going to search for all the things I enjoy, which on occasion, I'll just search for capybaras. And then for the next week, I'm just going to get lots of capybaras in my timeline, which is a fun thing to have. Amongst all the nonsense of social media, to be honest. But we're talking a lot about the current state of advertising. I'm going to ask you to put your Nostradamus cap on at the moment and talk a little bit about the trends of this year and what we're likely to see. Obviously, with the Senedd election, there's probably quite a few businesses who are holding off a little bit before they make any sort of strong decisions. But what do you think later in the year we'll likely to see more of?
So I think at the moment, as the closer we get to election, for public sector bodies who are advertising, they'll enter a period called purdah. So that will immediately prevent them from talking about or promoting things that could be policy-led or could be seen to potentially influence or gain an advantage in some way. So we've already had a conversation with a couple of our clients that is around purdah and having to pull back. I think we are already seeing some people, and I've had a couple of emails over the last couple of weeks from people saying, we almost want to lobby, and we want to lobby future politicians. So how can we do that? How can we be seen? And we've also been approached by 2 political parties asking us to help them get exposure, which is it's a very difficult balancing act to play there. I think what we'll see widely as trends, though, from an advertising perspective, connected television, or a CTV as we call it, is definitely on the rise. That's where you have maybe a smart television that has got pre-installed television software. So Rakuten is a popular one if you buy a Samsung TV, and they contain things like what we call fast channels. So it's a funded advertising streaming television service. So you'll often see things like the Britain's Got Talent channel, X Factor channel, Desperate Housewives channel, and all they do all day long is play those programs. So fast channels are growing, and I think we'll see connected television grow significantly over the course of this year.
Interesting. You know what? I've never even heard of the phrase fast television, but I realise now that I do watch some of it, which is kind of crazy, actually. I mean, not that I thought I'd discovered something crazy, but the platform that I watch a lot of the darts content on, listeners know that I'm a big fan of my darts. I'm realising now that I'm having to sift through Desperate Housewives TV or whatever it may be to get to it. So that's interesting. And I wonder how those then stack up between your traditional cable, but also you're on a smart TV. You've got Netflix, you've got Disney Plus there. Do those channels actually, are they seeing that rise?
Yeah, so I think the issue that television has had is, again, it's becoming fragmented. So new players are coming in. So you've got Prime, you've got Disney Plus, you've got I've said Amazon Prime,
Netflix,
Disney, Netflix. Yes. So you've got these streamers who are all now taking ad spend, and there's a finite amount of money that brands are going to spend. So they need to determine, where are we going to spend it? Do we spend it with what we might call a traditional broadcaster like ITV and Channel 4? Or do we say we'll go to some of what we call SVOD, streaming video on demand, subscription video on demand?
Okay.
So things like your ITVX and Channel 4's online viewing services, we would call BVOD, broadcaster video on demand. And then you've got your subscription-based models, which become SVOD. Now, they often have minimum spends. Targeting isn't as neat as it can be. It's still very early days. But I think as those services grow, I think the easier they will find it to bring in advertising. The problem I foresee, and it comes down to fragmentation, because people will say, well, I'll need to be on Disney Plus, and I need to do a bit on Netflix, and I need to be on, Amazon Prime, and it will just all dilute somebody's efforts and their budget.
I'm keen to find out what your opinions are in terms of what gets people's attention. We all talk about, say, the John Lewis advert, for example. Every year it becomes a bit of a moment, right? It's certainly an interesting marketing ploy. But is that something that's sustainable? They spend a lot of money every year. They're filming it probably around this time, to be honest. That's a big old budget. Mm-hmm. It gets the people's attention, but is that the most effective way of doing it?
Well, to answer your first question about getting attention means different things to different people.
Sure.
And there are lots of vehicles to do that. It could be you have a TV advertiser in Wales, Trade Centre Wales, who are renowned for not having any sound.
Yes.
On their television commercials. So it will just go. And now, if you're in the kitchen making a cup of tea and you pop back out, you go, why hasn't my TV gone off? You're instantly exposed to a Trade Centre Wales commercial. Now, it could be then that humour gets people, a bit of romance, but also people seeing themselves. We talk a lot to our clients about diversity and representation. So if you're targeting the over 50s, for example, get over 50s involved in making your commercial so that they're giving you real life feedback and input, and that they see themselves there. So attention can be very different. It's not just about shock tactics or being out there and gaudy. It can just be about doing the right thing and getting people's attention.
Wonderful.
Sinclair Group has been part of the motor industry for over 80 years. That's not just a number, it's generations of trust built on shared values, because family isn't just who you're born to, it's who you choose to stand with, and that's what matters to us. We offer new and approved used vehicle sales and service for some of the world's biggest motor brands, and trust, that's at the heart of it all. So whether you're starting your journey or continuing a legacy, visit sinclairgroup.co.uk. Belong for good.
Well, before we carry on into the Women in Wales Awards, which we definitely want to talk about, absolutely, I'm going to switch the format ever so slightly. I normally ask this at the end, but I'm going to do it in the middle to try and get a bit of a hook in there. But if there was any advice for your younger self, what would that be?
There is so much. I could write a book on it.
Well, let's discuss it then.
And that's the thing. I think for me, not accepting being told that you can't do something or that something won't happen. You'll never do that. That can't be done. It won't happen. And I think I've been guilty in the past of believing that because it was said to me by people I respected or aspired to be like. So you immediately go, well, if they're saying I can't do it and I respect them, I probably can't. And I think I probably would have done things faster or differently had I actually followed my gut. And I'm a big believer in gut feeling. It's that sort of barometer inside us, isn't it? That just instinctively tells us whether something's good or bad, and we can't explain it. But I think if there was one core thing, it would be to go back and say thank you to those people for that advice, but actually I'm going to go off and do something a little bit different and see how it works out. And it's on me if it doesn't work out, but thanks for the advice. I'll keep you posted.
I wonder then, what was the best advice that you didn't take?
Oh, the best advice. There was an opportunity once to acquire a business, and I think that probably could have been valuable for us, but I pulled out at the due diligence stage, and I've always thought, what if?
Sure. We were going to talk about the Women in Wales Awards. We'll finish off talking about it. It's something that I'm extremely excited for. I know you are too. And it's important to say that Hello Starling is the headline sponsor of the Women in Wales Awards. When we did our interview just before Christmas about it, I know I asked you this question, but I'd like to ask it again. Obviously, excitement has built a little bit, so maybe the answer's changed ever so slightly. But why was this something that you wanted to support?
There are a few reasons why we wanted to be involved. Harking back to the earlier question that you asked me about things that I would have done differently in the past, I think it was all around being the first, having that first mover advantage. And when I was presented with the opportunity for these awards, I thought, no, actually, let's do it. Let's just put our money where our mouth is and actually do it and be the first to do it and come out and say it. And I think the other reason is the fact that in Wales in particular, we hold up the poster people, if you like, of sport and in industry if they're men. You'll always see, on social media, you talk about, there's lots of stuff about men's team and because that's generally where the money is. And I understand that commercial decisions often, become a necessity and that people have to do that. But women are not celebrated enough. And I think this is an opportunity for women to be celebrated from all walks of life, whether it's business, whether it's sport, volunteering, charitable work. I think it gives us the platform to actually say, look, there are women in Wales doing absolutely wonderful things, and we need to celebrate them, and we need to be their allies. We need to help them and lift them up, because if we can't, then who can? We know that women are often, the caregivers of families. So a woman will have a baby and have some time out away from work. And we know all the statistics show that if they try to get back into work, there are very often opportunities like promotions and pay rises that they are not awarded because they have had time away from the business. And with sport, there's not as much money in sport as there is in the men's games. And so how do we make them able to play on a level playing field? Well, we've just got to keep talking about it and raising the profile and celebrating them so that it becomes norm. It becomes we don't talk about the men's game and the women's game. We just talk about the game. And gender shouldn't be a thing. It should not be a barrier for you being able to grow, succeed, and prosper. So we're thrilled, absolutely thrilled to be involved with the awards. I can't wait to sit with my fellow judges and hear some of the amazing stories from the nominees that have been put forward.
Yeah, we've got the judging day as we're recording this in just a few hours' time. James and all the other judges don't know about each other yet, so it's very exciting. being one of the only few people who knows exactly who the panel's made up of, I can assure you it's fantastic. By the time this goes out, you'll have seen the judging panel, and also all the nominations will be out as well. So it's just very, very exciting for us. I should also say the date is the 19th of March at the Marriott Hotel. Tickets will be available soon. So do join us on the night if you can. And I'd love to know, did Hayley see the video that we put up, Hayley Parsons from Go Compare? I asked you, for context, I asked you the woman who's inspired you the most, and you said Hayley. Has she seen that?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to her about it. Maybe I should send it to her and say, look, you're a fantastic woman, and I wanted to celebrate you and put your name out into the public domain. But Hayley is somebody that I respect and admire. She's not just a really savvy businesswoman. She's also a really lovely person. And she's just got a great personality. She's very fun to be around, but she's also really sensible about her business decisions. But it doesn't mean she doesn't have fun along the way and with what she does. So I just think that as far as women in business go, for me, she's definitely up there as one of my favourites.
Wonderful. Well, we'll send her this as well. And Hayley, please do come on the podcast. It'd be great to have you. Wonderful. James, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
I've got to spend the rest of the day with you now as well, so we're going to have a great time. But make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us once again on the Business in Wales podcast, and we'll see you next time. The Business in Wales podcast, sponsored by Sinclair Group, the business media for Wales.